What is going on, family? I hope you all are well. I hope you're feeling amazing. Today, what I want to talk about is fear, and in particular, how do we overcome it so that we can truly become the greatest version of ourselves. And this is super important because if we don't learn how to overcome fear, then it's impossible. We're not going to be able to truly maximize our potential, to truly become who it is that we are capable of becoming. And the reason I say that is because we're going to have to carry fear our whole life. It's etched in our DNA. It's etched in our survival. And if we don't learn how to expand our comfort zone and get past the fears that continue to keep us in it, then we're truly limiting ourselves. And when we learn how to overcome it, then it just puts us that much closer to our dreams and goals, which inevitably will lead to a fuller, more joy and happy life, and a life more fulfilled, which I assume is what we all really want. I know I do. So what happens is, a lot of the times, and I'm included in this, majority of us, we allow the fear to overwhelm us. We allow it to cripple us. We allow it to hold us back from taking that first step. I remember back in middle school, it was Martin Luther King Day, and my teacher gave me an assignment to say that I have a dream speech in front of the entire school. We had an assembly that weekend, and I was given a task to say the whole I have a dream speech. And I was nervous, but I had some time to study, so I wasn't too bad. And so I just studied it over and over again. I read it, got it to the point where I could memorize it and felt really good about it. And so it came time for the assembly, and I felt good. I had it all memorized. I actually felt so good that I went up on stage without note cards or anything. I was feeling myself. So it came time for my turn to go, and I came up and I said, I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will grow up in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. And I felt like the audience was feeling me, and I felt good. It was going well. And then things took a turn for the worse. And midway through the speech, for whatever reason, I happened to glance over at this girl that I had a huge crush on back then. I was young, but I had a crush on this girl. And for that quick moment when I glanced over and lost my focus, I ended up repeating a sentence over again. And when I realized the mistake, I froze and just had my mouth open, and it was just quiet. And when I tell you I was mortified, I had no idea what came next in the speech. I was just up on stage, stuck. Maybe somebody that is hearing me has probably had an experience like this, but it was terrible, awful. And I ended up regaining myself and it got to the point where I could finish the speech, but it scarred me for a long time. Actually, up until very recently, just the thought of me standing on stage in front of a crowd and speaking would send chills down my spine. I would actually feel it. I still feel it even now to this day, to a lesser degree, but that fear, I remember the day it happened, and it remained with me for so long. And for me, it's public speaking. For you, maybe it's, fear of rats, fear of spiders, fear of flights, fear of roller coasters. We all have these fears, and, those fears aren't necessarily fears that we need to overcome to thrive, but there are also deeper fears. There's fear of not being loved. That's something that we all experience. Fear of disappointment, fear of not being enough. That's a big one. Fear of not being enough is one that I also have. Fear of disappointment, fear of feeling embarrassed. So there are a lot of fears that creep up that holds us back a lot of times if we don't deal with it, if we don't recognize it and understand where it's coming from. And if we look at what's happening in our body when we experience this emotion, we experience this discomfort. this emotion, and our body is our unconscious mind. So it just feels the chemical of fear. It feels the discomfort. It feels the emotion. And it doesn't know if it's an actual experience that we're feeling, or a thought, or a memory. It's going to feel it all the same. And so a lot of us, we've had experiences way back in the day, way back in elementary school, and we're keeping it alive by our mind. Our body is feeling it as if it's happening just like it happened back then, as if it's happening now, even though it's only in our mind. And this cripples us. I mean, it literally can hold us back from being who we're meant to be. And so how do we overcome this? How do we get past this hump? It's very difficult when we're deep in it and we don't really know how to get past it. So what are some practical ways we can do it? Along my journey, one of the main keys that I learned that can really help us tap into the power of our mind is our imagination. Our imagination, our ability to create like really detailed images with our mind, so detailed and so vivid that our bodies experience it. Our unconscious mind, which is our body, experiences it to be true. And so, for example, for me, it's public speaking. When I was practicing these things, I would imagine an experience that was so vivid. And so when I look at public speaking, I go deeper into the core reasons of why I was experiencing. It wasn't actually being on stage. When I go deeper, it was actually the fear of failure. It was the fear of getting embarrassed, because that's what I experienced, was embarrassment. And so there's a lot of these deeper core levels of fear that if we tap deeper into it, we can really address. And so my fear of failure. And so when I would tap into my imagination, one of the things I would do is recreate the story. So instead of the story of being embarrassed, once you go up there, you're going to feel that embarrassment. I would create a vivid image in my mind of a crowd that is just going crazy, an audience that just loves me. Standing ovations, pure excitement, flowers being thrown up at me. I catch it, smelling in front of everybody, right? And doing it over and over again. Our bodies, like I said, doesn't know if it's happening in real life or if it's just happening in our mind. It's going to feel it anyway. So when I would experience it with such detail and such vivid imagery, my body would feel the joy. My body would feel the appreciation. My body would feel the gratitude. So guess what happens over time when I realize that there's a speech coming up? Once you condition your body over time to think of talking as a positive experience, and that fear starts to get dissolved. And that's what happens. That's how we can use our imagination. That's the power of our mind, the power of our resource that we carry with us all the time. And so say if you have a fear of, another fear of mine is octopus. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. Fear of octopus. You know, maybe you're on a cruise and you're in the middle of the ocean, you know, instead of imagining the worst possible scenario, imagine an octopus that is, I don't know, very nice looking, you know, just doing something that's not scary. You know, we can have fun with it. You can have fun with the imagination, but the more vivid, the more real, the more detailed the imagery, we can create it, and our bodies will feel it all the same. And it's powerful. Another thing I like to do using the imagination is disassociate with the negative feeling by placing the image and playing with the size of it. So what happens is a lot of times when we're thinking of something that we're fearful of, or we're worried about something, it completely just surrounds our brain to where we can't really see anything else. And so that would happen to me. And what I started to do was I would place that image that feels overwhelming, and I would place it on a television screen. So in my mind's eye, I would have a television screen, and I would place that image on the screen. So I would disassociate myself with it. a bit and see it from further away. And I would imagine that television screen going further and further and further and further and further away back to where I could barely even see what was on the image. And in that same time, at the same time as I'm pushing the television screen away, I'm bringing in towards me the full HD virtual reality experience that I want to create. The positive experience becomes what I'm actually sitting and living in. So the negative experience is getting pushed away, smaller and smaller in size, so I can barely see it, and the positive image is now surrounding me to where now I'm floating in my greatness. Now it's completely filling me up. And that too, when we play with the size of things, and we play with the overall image, we can truly learn to detach from it. And those are just techniques, and those are things that you can practice and try for yourself and see if it works for you. I know it worked for me, and it's amazing. And really what I want you to understand is just imagine the possibilities when we can look at something that has held us back for so long. We can look at fear in the eye and truly look it in the eye, and with courage, with understanding that we have the power to overcome it. What happens when we can look at fear in the eye and become everything that we're meant to be? When we run towards fear knowing that we have the power to overcome it. Just imagine the possibilities. What would change in our life? What would it do for us? How much we'll be able to do when we can expand our comfort zone? Where would our comfort zone end up being when we can use this technique? It's amazing when I think about it. Hopefully it's amazing when you think about it. Hopefully your mind is buzzing about the opportunities. And I would love to hear what you all think. And if you try these techniques out, I would love to hear what it works for you, what doesn't work for you, some feedback, what you like and what you didn't like. And so, yeah, I would love to keep this discussion going. Please leave a comment, leave a thought, leave a question. You can DM me and reach out to me on Instagram at Mighty King Jenkins. And let's keep this conversation going. I would love to hear more about what you all think, maybe some fears of yours. If there's anybody else who gets very, very, very antsy when they think of octopus, please let me know I'm not alone. Please. And yeah, I really appreciate you all, and I will talk to you all later. I love you.